Hello and welcome back to the Eyes of Oak Gaming channel. Thank you for coming by and checking out my latest video. This one is a little bit different from my normal videos, but I thought it would be a fun topic to look at. I wanted to put together a list of 5 games which I think are very underrated for some reason or another. Whether that be due to low sales numbers, or maybe they just really aren't spoken about or remembered with the fan bases that I think they could have, because of being innovative, or maybe they're just really that fun to play. This is by no means an exhaustive list of underrated games, and likely I'll miss out on many of your own favorites. Definitely let me know down in the comments which games you would include in your own list, as it's possible that maybe I just haven't played them, so I didn't include them. Some will be newer, some will be older, but they all brought something to the table that I think sets them apart from other games. Please let me know what you think of this kind of video and if you would like to see more of this sort of thing in the future. The only gauge that I really have to know which video types to work on is through your feedback. So the more feedback that you give me, the better, because then I can tailor my videos a little bit more. Keep in mind that when I bring up a game, it could likely have story spoilers when I'm talking about it. So if you need to, maybe skip through the video when it comes to a game that you don't want spoiled for yourself. And with that, let's get into the list.
Alex Mercer. I'm the reason for all of this. They call me a killer, a monster, a terrorist. I'm all of these things.
So I'm starting the list with my number 5 pick, Prototype. This one came out back in 2009, and I don't even remember there being too much hype for this one at all. It did end up getting a sequel, so it must have sold relatively well, or at least the publisher, Activision, figured they could still pull a profit out of it. Regardless, I very rarely ever hear this one brought up in a list of top or innovative games, and I think it really was something for its time. The game is set in Manhattan, and you play as Alex Mercer, who is essentially a virus, and you keep getting stronger and stronger until the end, and you have nearly godlike or superhero style powers. Apparently this game came out almost at the exact same time as Infamous, which led to people comparing the two games. And although they are similar, I find that people still talk about Infamous, but mostly have forgotten Prototype. I found this one to be pretty unique in that it is mostly similar to something like a superhero game, yet it's not a superhero game. The open world sandbox is a lot of fun to explore, and getting around is genuinely really fun using Alex's abilities. At number 4, I'm putting Mountain Blade and Mountain Blade Warband. Warband was released as a standalone, but it does feel more like an expansion to the original rather than its own game. I remember playing this game back around when it released in 2010, and being so surprised I had not heard anything about it before picking it up. It was easily one of my favorite games, and I plugged a ton of hours into it. Probably this game would have been my number 1 pick, except that it has gained some notoriety over the years. It just took quite a long time. So it released in 2010, but it wasn't on Steam until 2014, which I assume is what really affected its popularity at the time. Then it continued to grow a base, and they even released it on Xbox One and PS4 in 2016. The first DLC, Napoleonic Wars, came out in 2012, but it took all the way until 2014 for them to release Viking Conquest, with the Reforged edition coming out in 2015. When it came out, the critics all rated it to be a very average game, and many complaints were with the graphics, but really didn't give the amazing gameplay concepts the credit that they deserved. If you haven't played Mountain Blade, it's essentially a medieval simulation game where you create a character and get dropped into a fantasy world. You build up your army soldier by soldier, each one gaining their own experience and leveling up in stronger versions with different branches to choose from as well. When I picked this one up, I thought it was a nearly perfect game, and still find it quite fun today. With the countless mods and overhauls as well, you really have a huge number of options of how to play this game. Just overall really quite a good game and a ton of fun. Moving on to number 3 is a little more recent of a game, Mad Max. This one was published by Warner Bros. Interactive and released in 2015. I've always been a big fan of the Mad Max movies, and Road Warrior was one of my favorite of all time. I was pretty excited when I heard that there was going to be a Mad Max game coming out, but then the reviews came in and they were fairly underwhelming, just kind of average at best. So I put off getting the game for quite a while because I didn't want to be disappointed by a game that took place in one of my favorite franchises. But when I finally did go for it, I thought it was actually a lot of fun. Some of the missions can be a little repetitive, but the driving missions are just a ton of fun in this game. And really, it's a Mad Max game. Of course, the driving is going to be where it's at. The hand-to-hand combat isn't too bad. It's pretty simple, but it looks good and it handles pretty smoothly, which is really all you can ask for. The game itself is more of an old school open world adventure game and doesn't seem so drawn out like some of the more recent Ubisoft open world titles, for example. A really neat feature in this game that I think sets it apart from others is the weather system. In most games the weather is really just cosmetic, but in this one the storms and other weather patterns can be really another mechanic of the game that you need to work against. The graphics are also done really well, and personally I think it holds up really well today, and in some cases it's even better than many games that released after it.
So you want to fight in the games? Do you have what it takes?
So now we're getting into my top tier nostalgia-inducing games, which I felt went underappreciated. Gladius is number 2 on my list, releasing back in 2003, published by LucasArts. This game was one of my absolute favorites back then. The game lets you choose between 2 main characters, a Roman-style guy and a Northern Celtic-style girl. Regardless of who you choose as your starting character, the game will follow a very similar path. You're put in charge of gladiator school and you travel around hiring new gladiators with different abilities, collecting and outfitting them with different weapons and equipment. And then you put your gladiators to work. You end up going to different provinces, taking on other schools and gladiators within, and progressing through a main story. Although there is a main story that you're progressing through, it still gives you a lot of freedom with which order you take on challenges and remains pretty open with what gladiators you actually hire to join your school. Combat is turn-based and really a lot of fun. The moves do have skill challenges. Usually it's trying to hit it within a bar to score criticals, so it's less roll of the dice and you actually have more agency over the performance of your attacks. The story is pretty interesting and graphics weren't too bad at the time. Obviously they're showing their age now, but back in the day they were really quite good. I absolutely loved this game and was very disappointed it never got a sequel. Apparently it just wasn't really played by many people, though for the most part anyone who did play it typically had good things to say about it.
Here's your man, Nick Scryer.
Okay, so on to my number 1 pick for underrated games. It was a hard choice between this and number 2, but I went with Psyops. This one was released in 2004 and published by Midway. Again, when this one came out, I hadn't really heard anything about it. Actually, I only got this game almost by accident. I was in the video game store to buy Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, and saw a 2-pack with Mortal Kombat and Psyops, and figured, hey, why not? Then went home and played the crap out of Mortal Kombat. Eventually I popped Psyops in and it was just an amazing experience. The ragdoll physics were amazing and innovative at the time, and psychic powers, the story complete with very campy antagonists, the graphics, everything, it all just came together so well. We've gotten some really good psychic power games since then, but I really can't remember anything coming out prior to this that was on the same level. Again, very surprisingly, there's never been a sequel to this game, even though people who did play it typically seem to really enjoy it. When you look at some games that end up getting sequels, it just seems very strange that this one has not gotten a second look. So I hope you enjoyed this video and looking at these hidden gems together. Let me know what you thought of the list and what great underrated games I missed. I know I missed a lot, as 5 games is far from an exhaustive look at all possible choices to go on a list like this. Also, let me know what you think of this kind of video. Do you like this, or prefer I just stick to other videos like reviews and the kind of content I typically upload? Let me know you liked it with a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I upload a variety of gaming content and would love to have you join the community and help direct the future of the channel. Otherwise, thank you so much for taking the time to watch today, and until next time, take care.